Introducing Tony and Other People, a podcast. Here's your host, Tony Levesque.
Joe, let's try this again.
How you doing, Tony?
Good. Seems like every time I open my computer, there's always some sort of update or...
Oh, you gotta love it.
I gotta use my computer more often, apparently.
Must be or updated. I hate those updates so much, especially the ones where it says, okay, we're gonna update now. No, I don't want you to update. I'm perfectly happy the way it is. So I'm gonna deny the update. All right, we're gonna update. No, I don't want that update.
And a lot of them, you can't shut it off. You can't shut the updates off.
No. It just says, okay, we're going to update now, and we're going to mess up every file you have on your computer.
Like the one at work. Every day at 2:20, it goes off, and that's usually while I'm recording commercials. And just start that over again.
Yep, I've had a couple of incidences with that, too, where I'm just going over and saying, shut up.
So we work together. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, we work at the Moose, and I'm not full-time yet, but we work together quite a bit, and... It's a fun job. It's actually what I went to school for. And back in 2005, the summer of 2005, I actually interned at the Moose.
Right, yeah. I remember Dana telling me that because I mentioned that you were coming to work. He's like, oh, Joe Cool. I'm like, Joe Cool? What's that about?
Oh, funny story behind that. I'll tell the one at the radio station first before I go back a little bit with Joe Cool. That was the nickname that I went by. I still go by it to this day sometimes. And
I kind of talked you into that again.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. So what I did was I just kind of brought it in, and it was like, hey, it's Joe Cool here on the Moose, but I think I got a little carried away with it. And the boss, I don't want to go so far to say that he hated it, but he's like, look, That's not what we're about, okay? Look, this is what we need you for. This is what you're going to do here with this, all right?
Yeah.
And I got in a little bit of trouble with, not deep trouble where it's like you're never going to work here again, but more along the lines of the boss sitting me down saying, no, don't do that anymore.
That's what I love about working there is they just want to make you better.
Exactly.
Like, you don't ever get yelled at or you can't do this anymore. They're like, listen, this is why you can't do this anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, that was one of the biggest things when I interned there. That was one of my biggest problems. My age and my maturity levels back then definitely showed how immature I was, how not ready I was for the position for all those years I tried to come back. I just wasn't ready, and thank goodness they didn't hire me right off the bat because I wouldn't have lasted.
I think about that a lot. I'm like, man, if I would, because I always think, man, I got into this job so late in life, which mid-30s is not that late in life anymore, but I always think if I got into this job in my early 20s, I'd be a decade and a half into this, but then I'm thinking back to myself in my early 20s.
Yeah, exactly.
It's probably a good thing that I didn't start then.
Yeah, exactly. That's the mindset that you almost have to have with the radio station because, when I went in, I had an ego. I really did. Mm-hmm. And over the years, I grew up, and being a DJ for another company and going into business for myself, you learn how to. It's not about being Joe Cool. It's not about yourself. It's about the clients and the audience, so to say. So it helped me kind of tone down that kind of aspect of it and just learn and grow how to do the job right.
I think it's okay to have that ego as long as you poke fun at it so people don't see like, wow, he's really full of himself. Oh, he's full of himself, but he's joking about it. That's okay.
Yeah, that was my biggest problem. But then after that, I took some voice classes with a company in Albany, and they helped me a lot with controlling my voice because, again, I was really loud, and, again, I was, all the time. But after that, it's like, no. And they coached me on how to do it, and they helped me get a voice demo going. And with that voice demo, that's when I submitted it to the Moose again, thinking, well, I've tried for like 10 years to get back in here, but I'm probably not expecting much. And then next thing I know, I get the phone call saying, hey, we might need you for something.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And they haven't let me go, so I must be doing something right.
I think about that all the time. Well, they haven't fired me yet. No, that's... The Moose is Flack Broadcasting. The Flacks, they're the best people I've ever worked for. The best job you could ever ask for. As long as you come in and do your work, you really can be creative, do what you want. as long as you come in and do your work.
Exactly. And actually, I had a conversation with the boss about that. We just happened to be talking about the year I interned, and I was kind of like just talking about it. It's like, yeah, I look back and all those mistakes I made, and the boss said, well, actually, Joe, you did make some mistakes, but at the same time, I'm glad that you could make those mistakes because you learned and you grew from it. So, and now here you are. I mean, I don't know what happened. He said, I don't know what happened between you and those 10 years you were gone, but I like the change. And I just said, I grew up. That's what happened.
Yeah. I used to get a few phone calls, people complaining about, my song choices or the way I did things. And at first it made me so angry that they didn't like what I was providing, and that I worked so hard for it. And then I'm like, oh, this is criticism, I should really take that into account. You got to take into account too that's
right.
One person saying one thing.
Exactly.
But also, well, maybe other people are also thinking this.
Yeah.
So it's a tough job because you sit in a room all by yourself talking to 1,000 people like you're talking to one person. There's really nothing else out there like that. And like Tuesdays, I don't take requests, so I get zero feedback on anything. Nobody says, oh, wow, that was a great song, because I shut down the phone lines, basically. And it's a weird job. There's days that I come out of there thinking, wow, that was a great shift. I really nailed that. I spoke well. It was a good selection of songs. And that 1,000 people heard it, and you don't know what they think of it. Yeah. I mean, you find out as you go to remotes and I listen to you every day. I really like this and that. And that's why I love so much getting out like to the fair and just out in the public talking to people, because then you get a real opinion from people that are passionate about a radio station that's been around for 50 years or more. More than 50 years, because George has been on air for 54 years at the same radio station.
Exactly. I haven't quite had that feedback yet, but then again, I'm only a little over a year into it, and I'm just... to use the words that you used the other day, I'm like the duct tape. I can be used for anything.
Isn't it fun coming up with those liners?
Yes.
Yeah. For people that don't know, liners are like little 10, 15 second things that get played before or after a song to kind of you can use them live.
Yeah, like a transition.
Right. I use a lot of mine live, like after a commercial break, to kind of introduce me again so I can say something and play a song. But when things are in automation, and what I didn't realize is most people don't know that the radio station isn't live 24/7. They think all those DJs actually work at the Moose, but it's a national company that we use.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because, so many people know that Terry Clark works for a small town station in Lowville, New York.
Yeah, for 4 hours on a Saturday.
Yeah. She comes in. I mean, people don't know that Terry Clark's in town.
Yeah. It's weird.
That was sarcasm.
Sneaky. She's sneaky. But a liner, like when we are in that automation, the program allows for 10 to 15-second little clips that you can put in to make it sound local. And that's what we were working on the other day. Bill, the big boss, the owner, said, hey, we need 10-second liners from everyone. So what we come up with for you was, I thought, pretty great.
Yeah, I like that one the most. I did two that were a little more generic, just to say I take care of the community events and I take care of the Sunday morning programming. And then Bill said, I want you to do one that's kind of fun because, I do more than just that, too. I fill in whenever somebody needs me, and trying to think, what can I do along the lines? And then you gave me that ingenious one of, you like the duct tape. So I made that liner, and hey, the boss loved it. I haven't heard it in automation yet. Oh, you did?
Yeah, I heard it today.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Bill just put him in this afternoon, so I heard him just before I went on air. So, yeah, it sounds great because we actually had, you got to roll a duct tape and made that.
Yeah, I loved that.
Yeah. But that's what's great about our job is that there's so many moments like that throughout the week that, you're not there every day. Well, some days you are, like last week.
Oh, yeah, last week. I loved doing it, waking up and then doing the news. What happened, though, was near the end, I started getting the head cold, and at that point, it's like starting to drag me down. It's like, okay, I'm ready for this week to be over now.
Yeah. I have a lot of respect for B-Train.
Oh, absolutely.
As strange a kid Brian Trainer is, I love him to death.
Oh, yeah, he is awesome, and he's very passionate about the job. He loves what he does. and he's good at it too.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I like where we're at now at the radio station is that everyone that works there is very passionate about the final product, what we're putting out, not just their own job, but the overall success of the radio station. And that just, we've got a great thing going.
Yeah, we do. It's one of the very few hometown stations where it actually feels local. It doesn't feel like, it's just something out of the city. Then we just happen to have a tower here and a couple of jocks that play and all this. No, it feels like you're actually listening to people in your own community playing songs for you, listing off the news, the things that have happened, things that are coming up, the live broadcasts. And as far as, just people around the area just talking.
And as getting all that news, like what B Train does is really phenomenal that one person can really take care of all that.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have to come in when he gets a well-deserved break.
Exactly.
To go fishing for a week or whatever he does.
Yeah, I changed my sleep schedule so I could actually work on some of the news. I mean, you don't realize, all the research you have to do. Well, it was the week of that horrible accident that took place in Scolari, New York with the limo that claimed the lives of the 20 there. And, yeah, 2 of them were from the Watertown area, so I figured that qualifies for the area, so people should know about this. Mm-hmm. So you got to check all your sources, and you got to make sure that all the details are correct. And I was waking up around 8 o'clock, and from 8 o'clock in the evening to about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I was doing my research. I was buying newspapers. I was reading up on all the local area news websites that were reporting things like WWNY or other websites, and just making sure all the details. And then you got to write them up, and you got to make sure that they're worded correctly.
Yep. And then you got to put them in the Moose and the Blizzard, and
then you got to read them live
on the Facebook page. Yeah, people don't realize the amount of work that goes into. And that's just one aspect of the whole radio station, just the news. You got the weather, you've got the programming, you've got the afternoon, and
good grief. George Capron, again, been there for 50 plus years.
Yeah.
He doesn't just read the weather. He checks up on the weather history of that day and things that have happened in the area. He's reading up on barometers, and he's checking out other days in history while he's doing his morning shift, and with the swap shops where people can post things. They don't really have much of an advertising budget. They can just call it in and say, hey, can you just announce I have this for sale for this aspect of our show? And I mean, George, he's just going 24. I almost believe he's going 24/7.
Yeah, and he works 7 days a week.
Yes.
That's crazy. He even comes in on Sunday to do the news. I don't think to do the weather. I don't think it takes him very long, but still, he's there every single day.
Yeah, and he's a very dedicated employee.
Mm-hmm. And for 54 years to
yes.
be at the same radio station, that he's got to be up there in the country for some sort of record.
Yeah.
I would say.
I would imagine
he said something so dark this morning, but was laughing about it. He goes, there was a song, My Next 30 Years. And he said, oh, well, my next 30 years, I won't be here. Yeah, there's a good chance I won't be here. And if I am, that's breaking some sort of record at a radio station, because I'll still be working here.
He's not lying.
No.
I got the honor to work with George this past week while B-Train was on vacation. I mean, in person. Past times I've done it, I was in the one station. We have 2 stations, one in Boonville, one in Lowville. And George would work in the one in Boonville, and I'd work in the one in Lowville because it was more convenient for me from where I lived.
Right.
But this past week, without going into too many details, we had like some kind of technical glitch where the news for the Blizzard wasn't transferring over.
Right.
And Chris would take a look at it, and he said, I don't know what to tell you, Joe. The only thing I can tell you is you might have to do the rest of the week in Boonville, which at first I'm like, oh, geez. But then at the same time, it's like thinking, hey, I've never actually worked with George.
Yeah.
And I get to go work with somebody I grew up listening to on the radio. Yeah. That's kind of cool.
That everyone in Lewis County has listened to
for 50 plus
County
years.
Too. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was a big part of my childhood, listening to Kenny and George.
Oop. Sorry.
How unprofessional, Joe.
Yes, it is unprofessional of me. But then again, I never came into this claiming to be a professional.
You know that this is just a free podcast that nobody listens to anyway.
Oh, people listen to it, I'm sure they do.
Yeah, a few.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, people are interesting.
Mm-hmm. I do this because of that, exactly. I enjoy talking to people, and there's so many times I've had a conversation. I should have recorded that. That was such a great conversation. And now I'm doing that. And by giving myself that deadline every week, I have to really struggle to find somebody that's willing to do it, willing to put it on the internet. And that gives me a great opportunity to meet new people, to hone my interview skills, and to just get to know people and show the rest of the world this person, and what they want to talk about. I'm sure there's a lot of people that, I hate that guy. I'm going to listen to this, and by the end of it, they're, well, that guy's not so bad. At least I hope that's what happens in my brain,
Yeah, I mean, you see all these shows that or these other podcasts, you listen to them, or these shows on YouTube where they're just sitting there acting like a bunch of idiots, go, ooh, hey, ooh, I'm going to bash my head into the wall. I'm going to get 5,000 hits by snorting this condom up my nose. No, it's like, that's not how it works.
You mean morning radio?
Yeah, pretty much.
Not Moose morning radio at all.
But, but like
shock jock stuff.
Yeah, the shock jocks. Those guys are a bunch of jabronis. But I mean, no,
I haven't heard that word in so long.
Yeah, I just went to a WWE event, so my wrestling lingo is kind of coming out right now. But jabronis. It just why you got to act like such to use that word again, jabronis. Just. Tell a story about your life. People are interesting. Things that happen in someone's life is interesting. I mean, to use a Big Brother for an example, they'll tell you how you can get on the show. It's like, don't try to be macho. Don't come in trying to portray a character. Be yourself. Yeah. Tell a story. You're more likely to get on the show like that than by dressing up as some caveman.
It's way more interesting, and people have so many layers that... when somebody is themselves, you can see that. You can start to see down through those layers. But when they act or, make things over the top, then you can tell they're just trying to cover up.
Yep.
Which maybe they're just not interesting.
Yeah, maybe they're just not that interesting. Exactly. Or it's, maybe they just think it's all about acting like an idiot.
Mm-hmm. I always tell people when they listen to the podcast, I'm like, skip ahead about 10 minutes. Because, I mean, you and I are not nervous. We do this for a living. This is what we do, is talk on a microphone.
Yep.
But a lot of people that come in here have never, ever done that before. So the first 5-10 minutes, they're very nervous, kind of guarded in what they say, worried about tripping over the words, what it's going to sound like. But if you skip ahead about 10 minutes and listen, then the conversation's fully going. Nobody notices there's a microphone there. You're deep in the conversation. And... yeah, so some of them are hard to get going because you're like, what is this? This is awkward, weird, because it is.
Yeah, speaking of that, going back to my intern days about sitting in front of a microphone for the first time. Mm-hmm. The very first day, I will never forget this, that I interned at the Moose. Dana Kraus had shown me the controls and stuff, and he was going to have me... yeah, he's an amazing mentor. He taught me so much.
He's my golden goose. He's who I want to get on this podcast more than anything.
You know what? Knowing Dana, I'm sure he wouldn't say no if he had the opportunity.
Right, but
Dana, if you're listening, come on the show.
I haven't seen him in a couple years, and we don't live that far away. We were best friends up here, and he moved just a little bit away. And you know how it is, and life gets going, and I haven't seen him. So I don't want to say, hey, come up and do the podcast, and that be, I want to hang out with Dana 3-4 times, and then say, hey, let's do the podcast now.
There you go.
Sorry,
that's fine. That's fine. But anyways, going back to the first day and, not being comfortable in front of a microphone, he sat me down and he said, okay, Joe, I'm going to put you on the air and you're going to get a feel for what it's like. And, of course, you get the first-time jitters and, but in my head I'm thinking, okay, you know what? I've done this in college. It's not my first time in front of a microphone. Yeah, granted, it's going to be my first time in front of a radio station with thousands of people listening, but you know what? I'm going to be fine. All I got to do is read the weather. And I kid you not, the very first thing I say when they said today it's going to be cloudy, right? The very first thing, today it's going to be cloudly. And in my mind I'm thinking, first sentence and I messed up. Yeah. But that's not the funny part. The funny part is all day that day, every time I had to say cloudly, not on purpose either, I would go cloudly. It's cloudy. Dang it. And a couple times even on the air, I go, okay, so ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be cloudy. Dang it.
See, I love listening to B-Train because when he screws up, he'll say, oh, excuse me, and go back and, very professional about it. And I can't help but laugh whenever I screw up a word. And then I'll point it out, and then I'll make fun of myself. And by that time, I have to start the weather over because I just lost my whole train of thought.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how, the different personalities work out. And George does a lot of that, too. If he screws up, he'll laugh at himself.
Oh, yeah.
And then other times, he'll just, check himself and go right on. But...
Well, that's what you have to do. You just have to learn to laugh at yourself in this line of work when you're on the air, because if you can't laugh at yourself, if you take it way too seriously, it's not fun.
Mm-hmm. And I think people want to know that it's live, and that's the best way you can show them is just by screwing up, And when you screw up really bad or struggle, and people are listening and they can hear that, some of them are cracking up at how awful you are. And I'd rather have that than, people change the station. Just, laugh at me. I'm okay with that, but don't change the station. I'll get better.
Exactly. Here, I screwed up, and I almost feel like that Looney Tunes short where if you keep making mistakes, it was like that frog one where so many mistakes, all of a sudden the guy just goes, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
That's one of my favorite cartoons.
Yeah, I love the Looney Tunes.
I don't know how way back then they got that animation so perfect when they picked up that limp frog. That little animation, it looked so realistic when I was a kid to see, because everyone's picked up a limp dead frog or whatever.
Yeah, or a frog that has no energy to
every
it.
Little boy, I guess, is done that.
Oh, I'm sure girls have done it too.
But the animation of that was perfect. And when you watch some of these animated films now, it looks like you're watching a live action movie. It's so good.
Yep,
and to know that they got that, it's got to be 70 years, 80 years ago now.
Oh yeah,
well, these things.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was. Animation's one of my hobbies. I love watching cartoons, even as a 32-year-old man.
Transitioned you into that.
Yeah,
I knew where that was going.
Yeah, but. Yeah, just as a hobby, I study the history of the animation. That was around a time where when a lot of those cartoons were made. I'm not sure if that one falls into that category, but I know there's time you watch them from like the 30s and 40s. The animation's so fluid, it's so smooth. Mm-hmm. And then around World War II came along, and a lot of those animators were drafted to the army or make shorts for the army, to recruit people. And animation just took a bbig hit around that time, where they you could see it was a little more choppy. In which then I think around that time it started entering into the dark age of it, where you had the shows like in the 60s, Hanna-Barbera came around. You can see how cheap it was,
right?
Which I love Hanna-Barbera. I absolutely adore them, but it's cheap animation.
But all of that caused innovation too, because they found different ways of, the original ways of animation was you show every single movement, to whereas when it came, we had to do it cheap, had to do it quick. They found different ways, like the running feet.
Oh yeah,
it was just, it looked like a pinwheel rather than the actual motion of a foot running. They had to make little shortcuts like that, and as a 5-year-old kid watching that, you didn't notice a difference.
No,
us adults sitting there watching, wow, that's a way cheaper made. The content was more important.
Yeah, but I think what saved a lot of those shows was just the writing was so clever. Like Rocky and Bullwinkle. The animation's terrible, but it's one of the smartest shows out there when you go back and watch it.
It's very innovative with I always loved the title when they would do the title. And they would say, and then give it a whole different title.
Yep, exactly.
That was so innovative. I don't know if they were the first ones to do that, but I remember as a kid that blowing my mind. Like, I could call it this or that. I don't know.
Yeah. No, Rocky Bullwinkle was awesome, but then going back to what you said with the frog there, how they were just so careful. I don't know exactly what year that one was released, but... again, I think it's because they had the time, the budget, and the studio, and then all of a sudden it came to a point where it's like, oh, hey, we can make these even cheaper. Why waste the time? It's not cheap to make these. Let's make them cheap.
Yeah.
So,
or we can make 10 of these in the time it takes to make one of them. Why aren't we doing that?
Yeah.
But.
And then, after a while, then Hanna-Barbera started getting lazy with, Scooby-Doo. I love Scooby-Doo, but then how many of their shows came out that were just pretty much Scooby-Doo clones?
Yeah.
Good grief.
Oh, I did like that they were introducing way more characters, because it seems like forever it was just, Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny, and there was the
Yep.
handful of really great characters. But then Hanna-Barbera come out, and Wacky Races.
Oh, I loved Wacky Races.
There was so many different characters with different backstories and voices, and I love a show that has very distinct characters.
Oh, me too.
You know,
Yeah, me too. Again, that's why I love Yogi Bear. I think I knew Yogi Bear before I knew Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck or Mickey Mouse even. But Yogi Bear, it was a horribly animated show, but he had such a personality, you didn't care.
Yeah.
He was an egotist, but he thinks he's smarter than he actually is, and he's not dumb, but he's not that smart either, and just he's got that. I'm gonna get that picnic basket. I'm gonna do what it takes, and he had such a mouth on him. With just.
Yeah.
I remember one where Snow White, and it was like a parody of that. And she's going, "I'm Snow White." Oh yeah, well I'm Sky Blue Pink. What's it to you?
I love the double character too. With Boo Boo having him there because they were always together. So it was kind of a good cop, bad cop type of thing going on, and rather than one main character, they had the both of them there. Even though Boo Boo was second fiddle.
Yeah, Boo Boo, he may have been a second fiddle, but he was a great second fiddle.
Right. But he kept Yogi from being too extreme in his ways. You know what I mean? The character couldn't go off on, the extreme version of himself because Boo Boo would keep him in line.
Exactly, yeah. And then after that, like I said, again, I'm going back to what very little I know of this entire history. Around the dark time, though, that's when, like I said, Hanna-Barbera was just taking over TV animation and stuff like that. And Disney, well, they were still with the doing the movies, and even Disney movies back then. You watch them now, it's like, wow, they reused a lot of animation.
Yeah.
Even they took a hit from it. And I forget exactly which one it was where they kind of got out of the rut. I think it was The Great Mouse Detective that got things started. But it wasn't the one that became the great hit. Then The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Which, that was the renaissance where Disney just blew up, and it wasn't just their movies, but they came onto the
And
animated
Lion King and Aladdin. And,
and even on Saturday morning cartoons, they were producing DuckTales. They jumped on the wagon and it just blew up.
And live action stuff.
And live action stuff, yes.
The Dumbo, they had Dumbo's Flying Circus, I think it was. It was a live action show.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
I remember Dumbo's. Actually, we only had one episode on a VHS. For those of you who don't know what a VHS is, I think DVD is a box form.
They don't even know what a DVD is.
Yeah, probably. Okay, DVD, it's a Blu-ray.
Before Netflix.
Exactly. That's the truth.
You had movies in a physical form.
Exactly.
They weren't magically beamed into your house.
Nope. But yeah, we only had
they were actually. That's
Yeah, that was cable. But they were into your television, your.
It's come full circle.
Yep, just like music. It started with a vinyl, then it went to a cassette or 8-track, then a cassette player, then a CD,
Betamax.
then then MP3, iTunes, and now we're gonna put them back on vinyl again.
Yeah, people like the clicks and pops.
Yeah, VHSs, they're next. They're coming back.
I don't think so.
Probably not.
Nobody wants to rewind shit.
Be kind. Please rewind.
Wasn't that the worst? You get ready to sit down for a family movie, you pop it in, and it's at the end. It's at the credits. Now we got to take 5 minutes to rewind this thing.
Actually, ours did it in about 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh, you had one of the fast ones?
Yeah, we had one of the faster ones.
We had one of the fast ones that was too fast, and it would break the tape at the end of it.
Yep,
You get
or
to the end, and you smack.
Or when the film inside would get wrapped up.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the worst. I lost so many good tapes like that.
A struggle.
Yeah.
Kids these days won't know.
We're old.
It seems like every podcast I always have to throw in the "get off my lawn."
Oh, I love that saying.
We are getting old.
Yeah,
I'm not the one wearing a Snoopy t-shirt, though.
Hey, Snoopy's amazing. It's not even a t-shirt. It's a hoodie. I got this from my sister. She knows I love Charlie Brown and Snoopy. Charlie Brown's one of my all-time favorite characters in fiction. Like, I'd go right up there in top 5 easily.
Yeah.
Charlie Brown was just... I think Charlie Brown was a lot of motivation for what inspired me as far as like creativity or, just my walk in life in general.
I always hated Peanuts because a lot of it was over my head. and because I saw it really, really young, and I thought it was so boring because it was, it made you think. But when I was 5 years old, I didn't want to think. I wanted to watch, He-Man and action and craziness. And Peanuts was made more, I think, not for the kids.
I mean, I think kids could
little
get some
bit.
stuff out of it. Snoopy, you could definitely take a lot out of
sure,
it with
yeah.
Snoopy. I mean, you
No
want to
dialogue.
Yeah, exactly. You want to talk about how to make a great character. If you want to point an example, Snoopy, he's got a personality. He's got no dialogue.
Yeah.
But, I think that could be appealing to the kids. We had on VHS a bunch of Christmas specials. And,
who didn't?
yeah, but the fourth one was always Charlie Brown Christmas. And I remember sitting there and just, I'd watch that one. I mean, yeah, I didn't love it as much as I did The Grinch or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer at the time. But it's like, oh, hey, Charlie Brown. I like Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
And then the more you watch it, the older and older you get, the more timeless and the more you realize, wow, this is actually deep stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think that's with Charles Schultz, just a genius as far as, when it comes to the comic world and just incorporating his philosophies into the characters in just a simple way.
His writing was more big picture. Like he, each story, it seemed like he focused on this is the big story of it, and now I'm going to put the details in.
Yeah.
Whereas other shows you watch, it's all about the details, and then it just kind of flows along. There's no big message or big story to the whole thing.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems with, I think, a lot of the shows these days. It's just there's no... it's just big production, it's just, hey, look at this, we got these effects. But Charles Schultz, when he wrote his stuff, he's like, this is the message I want to get across.
Yeah.
This is the story I want to tell. This is how I'm going to tell it. These are the characters I'm going to use. I mean, was Peanuts always knee-slapping humor? No, but, still, it was enough where you liked the characters. The characters were so likable, and you could tell that it was just such sincerity to it.
It was so deep all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Without meaning to be.
Exactly, and sincere. I think the sincerity of it is what got it over.
It just reminded me of like a Family Circus, to where there was always a message with it. You couldn't ever just watch Peanuts and it was just funny. It was funny, and it had a message to it.
Yeah, I never got.
I
into the
didn't
Family
want that
Circus
at the age I was at, watching that, and I think that's what ruined me on Peanuts.
Well,
Just
hey,
didn't care
everybody
for it.
has different tastes. I mean. Yeah, I know when you're a 5-year-old.
forbid.
Yeah, make a 5-year-old think. But I mean, but yeah, when I was that age, there was a lot of things I liked that was just more action packed. Like for example, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, DuckTales, of course. But the older you get, I never really lost my love for that stuff. But you kind of look back on some of the quieter ones and you appreciate them more.
Yeah, I was a huge Calvin and Hobbes fan.
Oh, that is shame on me. How could I forget Calvin and Hobbes?
I think I've got some books over here.
Oh yeah, I've got the entire collection of that. Here's a funny story.
Time.
Yeah, here's a funny story with Calvin and Hobbes, because I know I talk about Charlie Brown being one of my biggest inspirations. Calvin and Hobbes was my inspiration. Like, it was number one. Calvin and Hobbes, my two favorite characters of all time. That, hands down, bar none. Calvin and Hobbes shaped me into what I am today. But, growing up, I was always collecting the books. And I loved them. When Bill Watterson retired, I cried.
Yeah. He did it right, though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He never allowed it to be an animated show.
Yeah.
He was very protective of the work, which I don't know how they can get the Calvin pissing on things.
They technically can't.
Yeah, I see that and I want to cry.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's not that I don't see Calvin doing it, but it's just...
They use it for everything.
Yeah, but like with Calvin and Hobbes, like I said, as far as collecting the books, as I was growing up, even in high school, everybody knew I was a huge Calvin and Hobbes fan, and I was talking to one of my friends. She had graduated the year before me, but she was dating somebody in my class. I was talking to her. She liked Calvin and Hobbes a lot too, and I would always tell her, there's this one book. I can never find it. I'm looking high. I'm looking low. Again, this was before Amazon or anything like that. I'm looking in bookstores. That's how you had to get your books back then. I just couldn't find it. And then on the day I graduated, I'm standing out there saying hi to everybody, getting my pictures taken, people walking up saying congratulations, giving me cards and stuff like that. Over on the side there, I see her. She's getting pictures with her boyfriend at the time. And then all of a sudden, she comes up to me and she hands me a present. I open it. It's the last book I need. I mean, that was one of the coolest things ever. I mean, if she wasn't dating that guy at the time, I'd have kissed her.
Oh, Calvin and Hobbes, man. I think I started reading them at the right age, maybe a little too young, because there was some of the words and some of the. I had no idea what a pole was.
Yeah.
Because he's always talking about his dad and the poles,
Yep.
and it's just well over my head. But I read them for so many years that finally I'm like, that's what he's talking about. Okay, now I have to reread everything.
Yep. That's the beauty of Calvin and Hobbes. You can appreciate it for, Hobbes pouncing Calvin and them just having their fun adventures. But the older you get, again, you appreciate it more and more because you understand some of the more adult things that are in there. And with Bill Watterson, I think that was the magic of it, because it can appeal to kids and adults alike.
Right.
And there's a famous saying with Calvin and Hobbes. There's two types of people in this world: those who love Calvin and Hobbes and those that have never heard of Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah.
I have yet to come across somebody that said they hated Calvin and Hobbes,
Yeah.
which I don't see how that's possible.
I think Bill Watterson nailed what it was like to be a boy. That's what the whole thing was Calvin's imagination was 99% of it. But all of it was what it's like to be a boy, what boys think about, and not even just a boy, but a kid with the and I love how when Calvin would be using his imagination, things were incredibly detailed and realistic, like the dinosaurs and the spaceships and all of that. It was such a contrast because it should have been the animation or the day-to-day life, the pictures, the comic of him realistic, and then when he was in his imagination, it would be cartoonish. But it was the opposite, which was just perfect because that's what it was like to be a boy. Because
that's how you picture it.
Your imagination is more vivid, than the actual reality because he doesn't pay attention to his life. It's more he's in his head the whole time.
I think that's why Mom said. That's why my mom would always say, "Joe, you are so like Calvin," because that was me as a kid. I mean, I always had this overactive imagination, and I'd be lost in La La Land. Best example was the one Calvin and Hobbes strip where he's imagining himself as a dinosaur. Those are among the best ones. And in the end of it, Calvin's so lost in the imagination that he's making the dinosaur sound effects. Next thing you know, it shows him in the classroom, and everybody's just giving him this weird look, and he's just sitting there. And he goes, sorry, sinus congestion.
Yeah. I cannot wait to introduce my daughter to Calvin and Hobbes. I mean, she's only 4, can't read. So it's a few years off yet, but Calvin was an only child, and a lot of the imagination was because he had no one to play with. He had a stuffed tiger, and that was it. And excuse me, it was always awkward when he was around other kids. The bully at school or kids at school, the girl. So it was always weird and awkward. And Penelope's an only child and probably will be an only child. So I can't wait for her to get into those books because that's how she is now. I mean, with her imagination. And I hear her talking in her room and I have to go in there and she's just got a whole scenario going on. She's got, toys lined up in a certain, I don't know what she's doing, but she's not going to explain it to me. She's using her imagination. And I can't wait to show her Calvin and Hobbes because I guarantee she'll fall in love with it. It's like you said. If she sees it, she's gonna love it.
Exactly. With I can't wait to show my kids that one. Or when I have kids, I guess I should say. I haven't found Mrs. Right yet. So, ladies, if you're out there listening, give me a call.
Joe is single and ready to mingle.
Exactly.
And he's got a voice of pure gold.
Don't I, though? Well, not right now. I'm just getting over a head cold. I love that. They
You got to use that to your advantage.
Yeah. Oh, he's got a voice of gold. Show him your voice of gold. Coughing all over your microphone. You're going to have to disinfect it.
And why do you think I put those things on there?
To keep so that the guests in the future don't get the head cold that I had from a week prior.
I've got the microphone condoms on.
Yeah.
Actually helps with the pip, 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 pip.
The popping.
Not that one. That'll be left in there. We just blew some speakers on somebody's car.
Yeah. Maybe. That's what post editing's for.
Yeah. That usually takes longer than the podcast. No.
Sometimes. I mean,
I've gotten a little better over it.
yeah, there's times where it's
years.
even when you're recording in the radio station, you read it over and you're thinking, oh, geez, this is gonna suck. Trying to get this correct, and it turns out to be a one-take Jane. And then there's other ones with like, this one ain't gonna be too bad to record. Take 12, take 13, take 14.
I've learned. I've only been there a couple years. That the better you do the take, the easier it is to edit. Because I've done some, for a 30-second commercial, I have 3 minutes worth to edit because I screwed up so many lines. Usually when I do that, I'll just cut the whole thing out, delete the whole thing, and start again because the better you have to work with. And I've learned to pause naturally. So that way, if I, because when you got a really long run-on sentence to read, you're going to read that 10 times before you get it just right. So I find the pauses, read that section, and stop, and because I know I'm going to screw up at least one of those.
Yeah, are the ones where the sentence is so long that you run out of breath.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of times where I was reading it for community events even.
Yeah.
As I'm reading it, as I'm going on, blah, 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 blah. Trying to get the last one out, but...
And you nail the whole sentence except for the very end. You don't have enough breath to get through it.
Which at that point, that's where voiceovers, the classes teach you how and when to breathe, because you can cut out that dead space thanks to modern day technology. Yeah. I mean, I feel sorry for those people in the past where they had to do it live every single time.
Well, when George reads the weather and he records the weather, he does it live. He does that in one take.
Yep.
And that always blows my mind because he does it with the background playing. And,
I did not know that.
Yeah. When George does it, who was it? I think Dana told me that George can't do the weather or a little liner like that or a commercial without the background, the music in the background playing because he uses the rhythm almost of it and needs it there. So when he records the weather, that's one take. And that blows my mind because it's just a 30-second thing. And Fred is the same way. Fred, our salesman, who rattles off commercials a lot, he will rip through one in one take, and they're of course like CJ Motorsports or something with a lot of numbers and stuff I don't know about, like this is the new Yamaha XZ4, and he'll rattle it off in one freaking take. Yeah, and it kills me because some commercials I spend so much time on. Because
Dana Krause would do that too.
Oh yeah, Dana. Well, I guess that's what happens when you do it for 25 years.
Yeah, 25 years the old way, and then all of a sudden they find a new way. Well, maybe we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see when we get there.
There's some days I'm doing production and making commercials, and I'm so proud of myself. I'm like, man, I ripped through that in no time. Oh, they sound so good. And other days I'm like, what am I doing? And of course, it's the day that you have 10 million things to do and 5 minutes to do it.
Yep. That's those days were fun. When you were on vacation, I think I had a couple days like that where I came in and I look on the desk and I go, "Hey, Fred, what's this book doing over here?" That's not a book. Those are your commercials.
That's what you're supposed to do in the next half hour.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thankfully I came in early because it was no, that was the week of the fair maybe when you were down there where I had some extra time to do stuff.
I knew you were going to have quite the workload, so this year I cut myself out of the fair. As I enjoy to get down there and see the people, but I've been doing it this year was my third year at the fair. I'm like, okay, I can deal with 1 or 2 days, and then I want to get back to work and do what I because I really enjoy that too. You don't think that you would have fun making commercials.
Oh yeah,
I do.
That's the best part of the job.
It's like putting a puzzle together and doing the best you can.
Yeah, or I love the ones where they say you can get a little more creative. And the goal for me is I want to be a voiceover artist for animation because, well, again, that's why I like animation so much. I want to provide a voice for it. And they say you can be a little more creative and you can have some fun with the voices, so to say. You can be a low biker sort of deal if it's like a car dealership, or hey, if it's a little wacky, you can do something like this.
See, that's why you need to get to work on SAS. for those of you that don't know, SAS is a big national group of a ton. I mean, there's got to be a couple hundred radio stations on there. And when you get a script for something, the salesman will bring you, hey, you got to produce this today. It's a commercial for 30-second commercial for a carpet place. And I mean, we do all the production, you and I, pretty much. So unless you want to hear just Joe and I on the radio, you got to swap. So we go to these other radio stations through an email chain type of thing and trade. You know, somebody else will need a 30-second one. So here, you do mine, I'll do yours. So our my voice is heard all over the country when you do that, and Dana's as well. You know, anyone that uses that, you know, they spread it all throughout the country. And a lot of them on there want you to be creative, because there's only so much we can change our voice at the same radio station, because people that are listening are like, no, that's just Joe. I know that's Joe, you know? But when you do it for a station that's never heard your voice before, that's just, oh, wow, that guy sounds interesting. You know? They don't know that it's not your real voice. That's
definitely on my list of things to do is get on that SAS program, which I know you showed me that
anytime you want to come in and do that I'm not in that room, feel free.
I might have to take you up on that once I get over this head cold. And, So it does sound
actually,
so
I had a guy, he sounds like Casey Kasem, that I trade with often, and he put up on there one day that, hey, I've got a cold right now, so my voice is really deep and low, and so anybody needs something like that, let me know. So I had him do a bunch of liners for me, because he sounded like I'm trying to compare it to maybe Bill Elliott or Sam Elliott. Got that old cowboy voice.
Yeah.
So I had him do a couple lines for me that I wrote specifically for his type of voice. And but yeah, you got to learn to use it to your advantage.
Yeah.
Community events, I mean, that doesn't...
community events, I have to be Joe Freeman.
Yeah.
And, because, I can't sound like this doing community events because, well, they have to know what's going on and they'll be more focused on the character wacky guy than the dates that are actually happening.
Yeah.
So, you want people to know the dates.
Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah. For alcohol, people... Alcoholics Anonymous.
When I first started at the radio station, that was one of the hardest things for me to do, was read off that list of Alcoholics Anonymous stuff, because I had such a hard there's certain words that I still have a really hard time saying, just because I don't enunciate like I should, you know, like I just did. I have a more relaxed way of speaking. And Alcoholics Anonymous was really tough. I had to slow Alcoholics Anonymous.
There's your Cloudly.
Yeah. First Presbyterian Church.
Yeah, I had trouble doing that at first too. But when it came to having to do it every Sunday, it became natural. Like, I can just look at it. It's almost like going on autopilot. Okay, Lava Alcoholics Anonymous will be meeting, blah, 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 blah. Okay, Adirondack Alcoholics Anonymous. Like, I don't even have to look at it. First Presbyterian Church will be hosting a dinner this night, blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, some of the new ones come. And it's like, oh, I got to learn this one real quick.
I had a really hard time getting rid of the Lewis County redneck accent too that everyone develops when it's still there, but like replacing the word "to" with "tuh," like going to church, going to church.
Yeah,
a lot of that you have to kind of work out of your system.
Yeah, well, the news helped me do that.
Yeah,
when because that's why I love doing a little bit of everything, because I get to develop every aspect of the job. Helps me develop each and every single skill necessary to be a voiceover artist. Like, if you have to enunciate well, do the news. If you want to be wacky, do the commercials. Do production. If you want to kind of be yourself, listing off what's going on, do community events. Or if you want to be a disc jockey, go live on the air and learn how to speak in a little bit more of a soft voice and just kind of be yourself, as opposed to being, hey, this is yo, yo, yo.
Yeah. I like the live aspect of it too, doing a live show, because a lot of times I'll be, get my papers all adjusted and I look up and there's 5 seconds left of the song and I have to quick throw on the headphones and wing it.
Yep.
And that rush of, half the time it doesn't work. Half the time you just blunder and end up playing a song.
Yep.
But the times you can nail it, and the sad thing is nobody knows that. because nobody's watching the behind the scenes, like, oh shoot, I gotta go on air real quick, and then you nail it and then go back to a song perfectly. People assume you're sitting there every single song waiting for your moment to get on there and say exactly what is scripted. There's no script in
No, you're yeah,
there is
the song
a lot
plays.
of our business. You know what I mean? In the radio business, a lot of it is scripted. I'm not going to mention any stations, but Watertown, a lot of what is played out of Watertown is 100% scripted, which, and it's not all, but, and that's why I won't say who or what, but a lot of radio stations, I'd say probably 70% of radio stations, it's mostly scripted. Ours is 100% winging it.
Yeah, it's just it's
the news,
improvising.
Of course,
the script, and when you have to read off certain announcements, that's obviously a script.
But when you're just DJing, it's whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it's you're listening. Yeah, that's why I love George Capron so much.
Oh,
he just sits there, and
he's got a gift.
Yeah, he's just being himself. Like there's no script there with George at all. That's all just him being himself. It's almost like having a conversation over a cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. Which I think, that's what made George so successful in this business for so many years.
He's got such a great voice. His is a classic voice.
Yep.
With a name like George. I mean, he's everyone.
He's pleasant.
He's everyone that's been in radio here's idol.
Yeah.
Anyone that's worked at a local radio station in this area, George is their idol.
Yeah,
and he should be.
He's just so pleasant. Yeah, he's developed his skills. He's done it for 50 years. Again, we all, how many times have we said he's done it for 50 plus years?
It's amazing. It's worth repeating.
It is. That's no small feat. You ought to have him on the podcast someday.
I would love to. But he works so many hours and lives in Boonville. I really need to make this mobile so I can go to people because I have had everyone come to the house. Dana, I would love to drive down and see Dana and bring all this stuff and do it. But I like doing it here because it's a comfortable room. It's quiet. It's in my own house. I can have the control I want over it.
How did they say it in The Wizard of Oz? There's no place like home?
There's no place like home.
Yep. Yeah, I just had my own home. I moved to a little less than a year ago. It's an apartment after living at my folks' home for over 30 years. So, you're right. There's no feeling like having your own place.
Yeah.
You get
your
to do what you
own
want.
space to just relax and be yourself and not have to worry about anything. See, I've got a little kid and a wife running around, so I can't even do that.
Yeah.
She's old enough now to where I can't just run around in my underwear anymore.
Yeah.
Dad, put some clothes on.
Yeah, no, you don't want to scar them.
Yeah. Just this year, she started with this thing. Dad, I would like some privacy, please. Okay. All right, I guess.
Yeah. I don't have kids, so again, I can't really comment too much on that.
It's awkward being in a house where you're outnumbered, where
you got a wife and a daughter.
Two ladies in the house. And luckily they're lenient, so I can still be a man and have some of my dignity.
Yeah, my brother and his wife got one son and one daughter, so there's really nothing to be outnumbered for. So, neither my sister-in-law or my brother know what it's like to be outnumbered at this point in time. Well, no, not even with kids because 2 parents, 2 kids. Yeah. So,
I see other parents with boys, and at first, I don't want to say I was disappointed to have a girl, but I just always assumed that I would have a boy. You know what I mean? I don't know why, my cocky brain thought, oh, it's going to be a boy. And I had a girl, and it was like, it just threw me for a loop. Like, I don't even know what to think, how to raise a girl, what's a father's role, and I don't know any of that. And now that I have a daughter, I'm thrilled to have a daughter and kind of relieved that I don't have a son because, some of the parents that I know that have boys, it's like, oh, that house is crazy.
Yeah. I've always heard people say when it comes to parenting, there's no book, that's going to give you a step-by-step procedure for it. You're going to have to learn as you go.
It's live radio. You're winging it.
Exactly. Exactly. Going live and stuff. My favorite part is when I'm live is I get to pick the songs I want to play.
Yeah.
For the most part, of course, we know when we take the requests from the listeners and stuff too. But
don't you hate that?
Sometimes you get a couple requests, even when I DJ weddings and things like that. Somebody will come up.
Worst.
They'll. I mean, obviously, you
wedding
take
requests are the worst.
They
it makes
can
me
be.
it makes me want to punch people in the face.
It can be. It can be, but that's when you just kind of put on this smile and say, sorry, don't have it.
Yeah. Then you get the people that, hey, can I plug my phone in? Oh, that kills me.
Yep.
Well, my phone will plug in. I have that same jack. It'll plug right into my phone. No, I don't do that. Sorry.
Exactly.
They paid me money to do this so that you didn't do that.
Exactly. I mean, once in a blue moon, if somebody has to plug a phone jack in for something for the bride and the groom, if it's something, once in a blue moon, I'll allow it. But it's like this, and that's it.
I always get the one guy that's sitting there with his arms crossed the whole time because he apparently doesn't like what I'm playing, even though the dance floor is full of people dancing, and he's one of the few people sitting down. And this happens every other wedding where they come up, you're playing a bunch of crap. Nobody wants to hear this. And then I kind of point out, well, they do. You need to play this. And it's always the most awkward, weird thing.
Yep.
Do you have any Johnny Horton?
Yeah, well,
Which some people like. If you play an old redneck wedding and play some Johnny Horton, people will eat that up.
oh, absolutely.
But it's never the case.
Yeah,
It's
but
a bunch of 20-somethings on the dance floor.
I've learned when it comes to people like that, I mean, they always say the customer is always right. No. To which, after they'll make a weird request like that, I just look at them, and again, I just have to say with a straight face, I don't have that song. Sorry, I can't accommodate you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
You know, I used to play it when they'd give me one of those off-the-wall ones and come
And
up
it
really...
kills the party.
Yeah. And people basically booing me. And it's just to show that one person, like, see, nobody wants to hear that. But you can't ruin a party just to prove a point
Exactly.
to one person.
You got to maintain that professionalism. I mean, you have to do it. I mean, once in a blue moon, a grandmother might come up, the grandmother of the groom or the grandfather of the bride. Just
always
say,
have to respect the family.
Yeah, I mean, they'll come up and they say, "Hey, I got a special song with my grandson or my granddaughter. Can
That's
you play
when you
this real
announce
quick?"
it, make a big deal out of it, not just shut off "Sexy and I Know It" and put on Patsy Cline.
Yeah,
Kalijah. Yeah.
Which that was the one I was talking about. Had a lady come up and request Kalijah, and in my head I'm thinking, "Are you kidding me? I love the song, but people can't dance to it, and that's not really the crowd for it." And then the groom came up. It wasn't mad or anything. He goes, "Hey, yeah, no, my grandma came up a little while ago and requested Kalijah." I go, "Oh, that was your grandmother."
Yeah.
In which case, I go, "Okay, I didn't know that. Well, okay, I'll throw it on." And of course, I made the announcement, and of course, everyone gathers around the dance floor, and they're just going around the room to Kalijah, and everybody's cheering for him. Yeah. So cases like that, it works.
There's only one rule to DJing a wedding, right?
Bride and groom come first.
No.
Okay, well, what's the rule?
The bride.
Oh, the bride.
The groom does not matter at all. Do what the bride says. That's the only
Pretty
rule.
much, yeah.
That's the only rule to a wedding.
Exactly. I know I've had clients come up and saying, we want this song. Bride doesn't want that song. Yeah. Well, she doesn't know what she wants. I think she knows what she wants.
The last wedding I played, the bride did the best thing ever. She gave me a list of stuff not to play. I'm like, okay, I wish more people would do this, because a lot of times,
yeah,
you don't want to play a song the bride does not want to hear. It's probably her ex-husband's and their song, you know what I mean, or something like that.
I haven't had anything like that happen where I've played a song, the bride comes up and going, "What are you doing?" Yeah. I mean, because again, most of the time, I've had where they'll, like you said, they'll send in the list and they'll say, "We don't want this song," or "We don't want that song," and I haven't had anything like that happen yet. Knock on wood, where there was no request for songs they don't want played, and all of a sudden she come up, because then I have to go quickly show the reception panel, like, you didn't make any mention of it.
Yeah.
So again, that reception planner is kind of my safety net.
Yeah. I honestly, there's some aspects of DJing a wedding that I really love, but a lot of it is just sitting for a whole day. That a lot of the work that goes into it, and people don't realize that too, making sure that you have all the songs that they want to hear, making sure that your equipment is all good and up to date, and then getting there and sitting for, you do nothing most of the time. It's a lot of waiting around, and it's those people's perfect day. They want that day to be perfect. So the pressure on the guy with a microphone is incredible.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just a live shift at the Moose where if you screw up, you giggle and go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
That's going to ruin their day, their special day.
Yeah, there's certain moments that you don't mess up when it
Right.
comes to a wedding reception. You don't mess up the bridal party introductions. You don't mess up what song they want for their first dance, or father, daughter, mother, son.
Yeah.
I mean, when it gets a little
Usually
more...
once that stuff is over, then I relax. I'm like, oh,
Exactly.
okay, now I can just play party music for the rest of the night.
Yeah, but then even when you're doing a party music, if you're talking and you slip on the tongue a little bit, I mean, yeah, people are a little more lenient. But when it comes to the formal stuff, no.
Yeah.
No.
You know what I do? Once all the stuff is done, unless they come up and have me announce something, I do no talking whatsoever. I just one song into another, till people are complaining that they want to go out and have a smoke or take a break. And then when I see people, you can always tell, I'm sure, that when people are dead, tired, and it's like, oh, time for a Patsy Cline song.
Yep. You got to slow it down a little bit just to get some people to do a slow dance while people get their drinks or whatever.
And there's always a lot of older people there that are not going to dance no matter what. And then you play a slow song. And so you have to throw those in there. As much as the 20-something-year-old bridesmaids do not want any slow music. And usually they're your bread and butter on the dance floor, because you get them out there and everyone's out there.
Yep.
But it's tough. It's a flow to it.
Yeah, as far as the no talking and stuff, I mean, I agree with you for the most part, but
that's what I do.
Yeah,
that's
for
what I
the
feel
most part
comfortable
of when I've done my weddings, again, I picked up some tricks over the years. I worked for another company that kind of where the owner taught me some tricks before I went out on my own, and some of the tricks were good. Some of them, well, I'll be blunt, they stunk.
Mm-hmm.
So over that, I kind of found my own rhythm. I found my own things that worked. So to get people out on the dance floor for the first song, I usually opened up with a slow one, and then just to help kind of lighten the mood, the first thing I'll go, okay, we're going to dedicate this to everybody who loves the person they brought with them tonight. If you love the person you brought with you tonight, invite him or her to come out onto the dance floor. And then after about 45 seconds of the song will play, depending on when the break is from the actual lyrics, I can get on and go, if you like the person, another wait for the next break. If you kind of like but aren't sure.
Yeah.
And then the part that you will, this is funny. They'll say, I'll get to the last part. I go, finally, if you cannot stand the person you brought with you tonight, invite him or her to join you out on the dance floor. You would not believe how many people get up and join the dance floor at that time.
I really like this new tradition that they're doing, the anniversary song.
Yeah.
That's a really cool thing. And I had a hard time with it because they always want it for like a 3-minute song, and it's hard to squeeze all that in, especially when you see some really older couples out there. So what I usually do is on purpose wait till the song is almost ending when there's just a couple, and then I say, these people have been together so long that I've got to play another song now.
That's a good idea.
To really kind of stretch it out, and make the focus on these couples that have been together for a really long time.
I think what I usually did was usually they don't request anything. That's when I do Alan Jackson's "Remember When," because that's the perfect song for that.
It's like 4.5 minutes long.
Exactly, and I always start off because the bride and groom will be out there. I'll let it play, and then just to kind of get a laugh out of people, I go, okay, if you've been married for 1 hour,
Yeah.
And then I go, okay, how about 1 day?
Yeah.
And then after that, I go to a month, 3 months, and when it gets up there, if it gets to the point where there's still 2 people left on the dance floor, I just usually say something along the lines of, we have our 2 winners, but we need an official winner. Quick question, how long have you guys been married? And they'll say, how long have you guys been married? Been married this long. Okay, these guys win.
Yep.
And then get to go into the evening. It's a good icebreaker.
Yeah. I like it when I get to a wedding and that's what they want to do. The anniversary song never disappoints.
No, it never
and
does.
And it involves pretty much everyone there, other than kids.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how I feel about kids at weddings, but
it's
it's not.
If they can behave and stuff like that, if it's immediate family, I get it. But
doesn't every kid want to touch the DJ equipment?
Oh, good grief! I had one time. This is when I was working for the company. I had to talk with the bride and groom about something, and next thing I turn around, there's 2 kids behind the DJ table looking at everything, and I can almost feel myself in slow motion. No.
There's always the parent that is not watching, like the 2-year-old with, my nephew, my My wife's father calls him 50 hands.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what he is. But there's always one of those kids there. And usually the parent is, preoccupied with something else. And it's always reaching up. Where all my cord? No.
Yep. The one thing about DJing weddings that for me it's becoming harder and harder to do now is the bouquet toss and the garter toss.
Yeah.
Because
it's awkward.
Yeah, well, not only that, but there are kids out there now that are trying to catch it.
Yeah.
And if an adult catches it and a kid catches it, we all know what's supposed to happen after that.
Yep. Okay, we're gonna skip this next part.
Yeah, this is where a trick I quickly have a song on standby where if it's that, I quickly put it on. I go, okay, these two have caught it. Usually there's a different tradition that happens after that, but we're gonna do something a little different today. These two are gonna lead everybody in the locomotion or something, and then we have them parade everybody around, and that kind of keeps things going while getting the awkward part out. But one time, oh my.
Another reason I don't think kids should be allowed at weddings.
But man, oh my gosh, one time, it was, I did not know that one of them was a little underage, and I was trying to get things set up. They're looking at me like, what are you doing? Yeah. And I'm like, what? What's wrong? Isn't this what's supposed to happen? And then somebody came up and goes, this one's 14 years old. Oh, yeah. No. Like, first of all, it's like, no, she is not 14. And then it's like, okay, she's 14. It's like, oh, boy.
There's so many possible awkward moments at weddings. Weddings are just a weird situation, and you're the guy in control of the room. Yeah. That's always awkward.
Yeah, that's why we always say it's not an easy job. I love it to death, but... there's been times where there was also a point in time where I was almost done DJing.
I'm getting to be that point.
Yeah, well, it wasn't so much doing the weddings and things like that. It was kind of with the company I was working for. Yeah. Because I won't mention the name of the company out of respect of the owners and everything like that. But it was a nightmare. Yeah. Because what had happened? Is it okay if I tell this story? Or?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Yeah, what happened was after I was DJing by myself, I was getting to the point where I was kind of in the mindset of, I don't know if I want to do this so much longer. Then somebody came up and the owner of the company said he was looking for a manager for a Watertown office. And he laid the offer on the table for me and showed me what the benefits would be and what the pay would be. Long story short, without giving numbers, it was an offer I couldn't refuse. Mm-hmm. So I accepted the offer. And at first things were going fine. I was guaranteed 2 to 3 gigs every weekend, which at first it was great. Yeah. But then all of a sudden I started getting into the inner city, those crowds. Yeah. Where it's very different from North Country weddings.
Oh yeah.
Because the music they want is different, their attitude is different, It was almost to a point. One of the shows I did, they were black tuxedos. They were in black tuxedos. And something happened with my tuxedo where it was just really, really messy and stuff. It's like, I don't want to wear that. So I kind of wear my best dress outfit, so to say. I wear a tie and stuff like that. It's not a tuxedo, but I still professional looking and things like that. I get there, and the guy was not happy at all. Like, this is unacceptable. We are doctors. We are higher among you. It's like, oh, shut up, you pretentious jerk.
Who cares? You're a wedding DJ. You know what I mean? Yeah. When I first started doing it, I didn't even tuck my shirt in. I'd wear a pair of pants and a button-up shirt, a pair of jeans even. And now, I'll put on a pair of dress pants, tuck in my shirt, and I find if I just wear a black shirt and dark jeans, like I'm going to, or dark dress pants, like I'm going to a funeral, people tend to know I'm the DJ. Yeah. It's like a DJ outfit, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't quite gotten to that point yet. I have a tuxedo just in case anybody wants it. But, I also, if people say they want me to wear something a little more casual, yeah, of course I respect
Usually
that.
Wherever I go, I look like the guy that's out of place anyway. So it doesn't. You can't polish a turd.
Yeah. Yeah, but to shorten this whole story up, I got to a point where, with the number of weddings I had to take on and the fact that they were all in the inner city and nobody was booking anything up here because I'd stopped taking my own shows and stuff like that, it was starting to take its toll. Yeah. And then it got to a point where the office manager left. Mm-hmm. And because of that, things started going downhill. Like, it got to a point where I wasn't getting paid for my services to the company. Like, the guy owed me $1,500. And finally, after the $1,500, I said to the guy, because there was a show coming up that weekend, I said, listen, you owe me $1,500. Either you pay me that $1,500 or I'm not doing this show. Yeah. So we worked the agreement where he said, "Tell you what, the show, they'll pay us $600. They said they're gonna pay cash. Keep the cash. I'll write you a $900 check. How's that sound? Fair enough." So I get the check. Check bounces. So right there and then I should have gotten out, but me thinking, I already given up my own business to be a part of this. I don't want to just get out because of one bounce check.
Right.
So I find out that there's no office manager there for 4 months.
Yeah.
And, so for 4 months, nobody was handling this office. Nobody was handling these clients.
Oh, man.
So, again, that should have been another warning sign.
Yeah.
But me not wanting to just give it up said, well, if you need somebody, I can come down and do it.
Yeah.
So I'm down there, and most miserable 3 months of my life because I'm calling these clients. Ain't a one of them that's happy.
You're right.
I had a couple of them.
Cleanup crew.
Yeah, they were cussing me out, and I had to tell them, like, look, I just started here.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to help you to make sure that your day goes smooth.
Yeah.
And we've had people backing out of the weddings because nobody was getting back to them. If I wasn't there, I had booked shows for them, but I couldn't be there for a while. And when I wasn't there, nothing got done. So we lost all those clients. Mm-hmm. And between having to deal with these miserable clients in the inner cities and then just people cussing me out and moving the business around, and it just felt like every step forward taken, there was like 2 steps backwards.
Yeah.
And it kept going. And it got to a point where, friends and family were saying, no, give it time, give it time, give it time. And then the final straw for me was I had taken a vacation in Florida. And while I was in Florida, I told the owner, I said, listen, when I'm down there, I don't want any phone calls from these people saying nobody's getting back to them. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to handle this. Yeah, the owner having to handle his own clients. The nerve. But I'm down there, and I think it was like day 2 or 3. Lo and behold, somebody calls me saying they haven't gotten their contract or anything. So me, not happy, I called the owner up, to tell him. And his first words were, Joe, I'm glad you're back. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. I need you to do that. I need you to do that. And I say, I'm not back. I'm still down here in Florida. I'm not coming back for another 4 days.
Yeah.
What's going on? And then it got to a point right after that, I just pretty much my words were, he can run his business however he wants, but I have the right to do what's best for me. And what's best for me is to get out of this situation. So, I didn't even give him a 2 weeks notice. I just stopped going. And whenever he called, I blocked the number and everything. I just said, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, I am done. It took a toll on me. And right then and there for like 3 months. 3 months, I didn't even, oh, wow, it's really coming down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry about that. There's some rain out there, but for like 3 months, I don't know how to describe it. I almost want to call it I don't know if I call it a depression, but I think people would classify it as that just because, after everything that had happened, I'd given up my business and gotten nothing out of it.
Yeah.
And, even my dad had to sit me down and go, Joe, you realize you just lost it, right? You realize that, you just gave it all up, right? And for the 3 months, my response was, I know.
Yeah.
I just don't care.
I've left jobs like that where you don't feel appreciated. You're
yeah. Or the people just don't know what they're doing.
And that's why I love where we're at.
Yeah.
We both seriously have the best job.
We do. We really do.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, but I can't tell you how close I was to getting out of DJing right after that. It was a client that I actually knew that booked with the company at the time. Mm-hmm. They contacted me 2 weeks before their wedding. Lo and behold, the company's not getting back to them or sending them paperwork or anything. Yeah. Big surprise. So they say, listen, Joe, we don't have anybody. Can you please help us? And before that phone call, I was seriously debating on selling my equipment. Like, I was about ready to post it on the internet to sell. Yeah. Because, I was just, in my mind, I was done. Yeah. And then after that, it's like, I don't want to, but I don't want to leave them hanging. Yeah. So I just said,
it's nice to do it on your own. Mm-hmm. Have your own terms. And
yep. And that's when I told them, I go, fine, I'll do this one for you. But in my mind, I'm thinking, this is my last show. Yeah. Then I'm selling everything. Yeah. So I sit down with them, plan everything out. Like you said, it was my terms. It was my schedule. I don't have to answer to anybody. Right. I don't have to worry about this or that so much.
Getting paid directly from them and not from many middlemen.
Yep, and then I have to worry about if the check's going to bounce.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, though, I really found myself having fun again.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing. I dread when weddings are coming up because they're nerve-wracking. You want to get it right. And, it's stressful to prepare for a wedding. And then once you get there and the peak of the night, I just noticed that I'm smiling ear to ear. These people are having a blast, and it's because of what I'm doing. And when you get done, you feel good. You got the money in your pocket. You made a great night for people. And it's like, oh, yeah, I got to keep doing this. Yeah. And then the next one comes along. You're like, oh, no, I don't want to do this.
I don't know if I ever, after that night, though, I don't think I've ever gotten to a point where it's like, oh, no, I got to do this. I mean, you just kind of like, okay, I have to do this. I just have to make sure I'm ready. I just have to pray my equipment doesn't malfunction.
But I also go out and play music, like actually play an instrument and make money that way. So when I know I can do that, and that is 10 times more fun.
I believe it.
So it makes doing the weddings. It's like it's not as much fun as it could be.
Maybe you should do band weddings.
Oh, used to, yeah. We used to mix it up. Actually, Dana would DJ part of it, and then we'd play in the band for part of it. So it's a nice little thing. Yeah.
I played the trombone. That's about the extent of my musical abilities.
You'll have to join a ska band then.
Yeah, ska band or a marching band or something like that. But
we're at about an hour 15, Joe.
Oh, wow. We went a little over.
There's no time limits. We make the rules.
Yeah.
I make the rules.
Yeah, you do. You hear that, people? He's the man in charge.
Thanks so much for coming down to do this.
Hey, no problem.
We talk all the time on a microphone, but never to each other.
Well, now we are. Hey, who knows? Maybe we'll get a dual microphone in the studio one day and have a co-show. Yeah. Just no AM stunts, no wacky sound effects, or 103.9 The Moose, or that's not the name of the station, but you know what I mean.
I've got a whole bunch of Trump liners though. What am I going to do with those? Thanks again, Joe. This has been a lot of fun. We'll do this again.
Absolutely. So take care.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Tony and Other People, a podcast. Questions, comments, concerns for Tony's overall well-being? Want to be part of the show? Find us on Facebook or email us at tonyandotherpeople@gmail.com.